Go inside the studio with the Ricky Harris Media Podcast. Here's your host, Ricky Harris.
Just like the announcer says, hey, I'm Ricky Harris. Thanks everybody for checking out the last week's episode. That was really good. I was just sitting on the couch, which I just moved into the studio. It's the old couch from the living room, so it's kind of nice to have a place to sit and chill. And that couch actually plays an important role on the commercial that Ivan and I shot, and as well as an artist. She does a little bit of everything, singing, acting, and that was incredible. We ran through the script with her and she was cracking up. It's a very funny commercial. I was really happy how it turned out. We had more material than could fit into 30 seconds. It's really important for the creative flow to collaborate, talk to other people that share a similar interest, a similar passion. And one thing you'll realize, I guess with any career, I get this in my day job all the time, the amount of people that I bump into and just a short conversation, you realize, wow, you have a lot in common. You get that in the creative realm too, which I find absolutely fascinating. One thing I've learned, and this may not be true for all, but those that I've watched on YouTube and had the pleasure of meeting in person, that being voice actors, had the pleasure of meeting in VO Atlanta, they really are techie too, which makes sense. They're interested in the action, the performance part of it, of course, obviously, or they wouldn't be doing it. But they're also interested in the techie part too. You know, they're a one-person shop handling it all. The home studio aspect of it, which is way more complicated than it looks, I will say. But I was up for the challenge, and those that do this are up for the challenge too. It's really cool. It's really interesting to talk through it, and then it is great to share a passion like that. So in the theme of keeping the creative juices flowing, which is always important. It's always good to be creative and think outside of the box. Literally, you're inside of a box talking into a microphone. And I brought the old couch in here, and it's just comfortable. I'm actually standing up right now. So, and that's another thing. It kind of helps the energy. That's actually an old tip that comes from radio guys, specifically Leo Laporte. If you ever followed... those of you that are listening in Los Angeles are very familiar with Leo, but worldwide anymore, he hosts a podcast network focused on tech, and I found out about him from XM Radio, and actually had the pleasure of meeting him at his own studio in Petaluma, California, a few years back. But yeah, standing up. And he sits on a bouncy ball too sometimes, you know, it just kind of keeps that energy going, because at the end of the day, we are performing. We are communicating information and stories to hopefully engage the listener, or in this case of this podcast, is to educate and to motivate, because I don't want people to get discouraged doing this. And it can get very discouraging. I understand. But if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, my consultation is free. My demos in my studio are free, by the way. And again, you know, friends helping friends, we can always work something out. If you happen to be in the Atlanta, Georgia area, namely towards the Columbus area, down towards the south western border of Georgia. If you're around that area and you want to record something with some good dry vocals, or record guitar, record bass guitar, you want to record some drums, we can handle it all here. I say we, again, it's me, but it's thanks to all the information out of all the many people that I've bumped into over the days that have been very generous with their time. Thank you, everyone, for that. Want to talk more about on-set audio? If you're recording multiple tracks with separate pieces of hardware, one trick that I've learned over the years from recording wedding videos is to start and stop your camcorder or your main audio device. Let's say you've got a lavalier microphone on that device, but you also have a field audio recorder. Start and stop those at the exact same time each take or each recording. That way you have videos that start and stop at the end, and that way everything is the same length too. That way, I mean, it may not be accurate to the millisecond. Us humans are very good at discerning slight imperfections and lip sync. The time difference between the audio and the video of your mouth moving, or in the case of an instrument, anything happening on set with on-set sound, we're really good at picking up problems with lip sync. And it can be very distracting sometimes. So that's a really quick, easy tip. Just what I do on my setup anymore is I actually mount my field recorder onto the tripod, if I'm on a tripod, or I'll use a shoe and actually physically mount it to the camera using the hot shoe, which you would put a flash or a light on. And that way it's just kind of part of the camera. Those of you that shoot on DSLR, still cameras, but use it as like a digital cinema camera, are very familiar with this process, actually attaching the field audio recorder onto it, in that case, to actually give you professional XLR balanced inputs for audio, and everything's all in one chunk. At that point, it becomes a cinema camera with that capability. Or, in a lot of people's cases, especially anymore, news gathering, you're using a film type setup with extremely good picture quality, 4K and higher, with interchangeable lenses to capture news in a very sane process that won't be a nightmare to edit later. While we're on the subject of sanity, keeping your sanity when it comes to the editing stage, you don't want to be just pulling your hair out at your editing station later, because that will zap all the enthusiasm out of you. I want to throw to a YouTube video, and to see this to see the video of this YouTube, check out my YouTube. It's Ricky Harris Media. And here's the audio. Just listening to it will really help you hear the tonal changes between all the different microphones. So here we go. Roll the tape. And that would be just me, later in editing. I'm going to roll it later. All right. For you, it's going to happen immediately.
So here we are, 6 channels of audio. That's right, 6 channels of audio. You may be thinking that's a bit excessive. That comes from my days of wedding videography, because you don't get a second tape. And I figured, why not capture audio like you do with music? Then you can mix down later. But it's very important to stay organized on set, knowing what audio clip is what, taking good notes, writing down your file names. Then when you move everything over to your laptop, tablet, phone, however you offload your media at the end of the shoot, you know what is what, and you can synchronize. Another important thing to keep in mind, especially when you're dealing with equipment that may not have time code capability, like my field audio recorder, set the date and time. And we recently went through a time change, so that's very important. You don't want everything being an hour off. Anything that can save you time later in editing is great. 6 tracks of audio for demonstrating this. Channel 1 is my lav. I'm actually wearing 2 lavs, but we'll get to that here in a second. But right now, one of them is a wireless lav and is going directly into the camera on input 1, or left channel. Everything's going to be brought up in mono as its own individual track. Okay, number 2, and I'm going to bring these up in the mix, is the camera mic, which is actually a Audio-Technica shotgun microphone. It's always good to have a camera mic, mainly there for a backup, but it's also very, very helpful for synchronizing audio. When it comes down to the editing stage. Okay, track number 3 will be left ambience mic on my field audio recorder. Channel 2 is right, and you can bring those in. And I'm going to come back to my main mic so you can better understand me. You can bring those in to add a sense of dimension, audio dimension, kind of make the audio portion of your production more immersive. And you bring it into taste or not at all. Depends on the scene, depends on the story, depending on a lot of things. Alrighty. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, track number 5 is my overhead short diaphragm or small diaphragm condenser. And I found these are really good for indoors. The shotgun, like I have on my camera, is good for long distance pickup, but also they work very good outside too. So outside, close pickup. Indoors, the small diaphragm seems to work pretty good. And the last channel, again, for this demonstration purpose, most likely these other 2 channels will be 2 more lavaliers. But the last channel number 6, is my large diaphragm condenser, which is my MXL 990. That's my kind of go-to podcast and voiceover microphone. And since I'm in my studio, I have the luxury of an outboard preamp. It's a 2-channel vacuum tube preamp made by Art. It's not necessary, but I am very picky, so I went ahead and ran everything through the snake, and I have the outboard preamp driving the short, small diaphragm condenser and the large diaphragm condenser to kind of help with some of that hiss.
Welcome back to the Ricky Harris Media Podcast. That sounds more complicated than it is. It's really not. It's really not bad at all. It's a DR40X Tascam. I bought it used. I want to say it was about $70. And even new, they're really, really reasonable. Awesome recorder. Not the best preamps, but when you're driving condenser microphones, which we use a lot anymore, they don't require a lot of preamp. So most of the time, you're not going to notice that hiss. I'm very picky, of course. Like I said in the video, most people are not going to notice that. So really what you have is you mount this on your camera. You know, if you want to, I like that flow. Everything's kind of all in one chunk. And that gives you 4 inputs. Some cameras actually have 4 XLR inputs. And then on the device itself, it has 2 microphones built in. And there you go. Start and stop them the same, and you got your 6 tracks. In actuality, it's 4 microphones you plug in, and then stereo, really. That's what it is. And like I said in the video, you can use it or not. It gives you so much flexibility when it comes down to editing. Any more storage is so cheap, it's like you might as well record it. It's not that expensive to get a spinning hard drive. Not so much a solid state drive, but a spinning hard drive. Like one of those laptop backup drives, those little skinny drives, plug into a USB port and then put all your data on that. Just kind of run off of that. And then over time, you'll eventually have a closet full of hard drives. But really, it's not bad at all. I mean, storage is cheap, and recording like I do on this show, I record at, supposedly, those of you that are more into the industry than I am right now will better understand this, but I record at 48K, which I believe is the standard for motion picture now. So that's 48,000 samples per second, which is way higher than what the human ear is capable of hearing. So it's basically an exact duplication of sound. Got some audio purists listening. I know. Well, not technically, Ricky. Yeah, I know. A true duplication of sound would be on 1/4-inch tape. Man, no, not at all either. I do love the way 1/4-inch tape sounds. It's one thing I do miss about doing radio in the mid to late 90s. Recording on 1/4-inch tape at, I believe it was 15 inches per second. Yeah. I mean, there's hiss, but it's not that bad. But it just sounds so smooth. I love it. That's why I run through a vacuum tube preamp. I got to have a little bit of that old school technology in the path to kind of smooth it out, because especially, now you can hear it. I sound kind of gravelly. I haven't been smoking a pack every day. No, I don't smoke actually. Come down with the old Thanksgiving cold. It seems like every Thanksgiving I end up coming down with one, but it's just finally going away. It's just lingering just a little bit. I'm not contagious anymore. I feel fine. I just sound bad. That stage. And of course you got that. When I laugh, it sounds like I've been smoking like since I was 10. Alrighty. I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much, especially for listening to last week's episode. That was very therapeutic for me. And I wanted that to be a tribute to him, because he was so important in my life and my interests and my motivation to stay with it, stay focused, stay in school, finish school, and then hit your career hard and try to be the best as you can be. No, it's not a commercial, but really, he was, a huge motivation for me, and will continue to be a motivation for me through his memories. And he's still here in some fashion, and he still lives in a lot of people's souls. Thank you guys and gals for listening. Next week, I want to talk a little bit more about how to make technology less annoying so your creative side can come out. I want to talk about bridging the gap between professional and consumer grade audio gear specifically, but we'll talk about video too, because there's a lot of great gear out there that may not be professional, may not be designed for what you want to use it for, but especially starting out, you don't have the budget, or you may not want to spend the budget until you have a concept actually being made and you can actually see it to get your demo to further your creative flow. There's lots of ways to do that. I want to talk about one important device that you can have that's not expensive, but it will save you a lot of time when bridging that gap, specifically audio. Talking about that next week. Thank you guys and gals for checking out the show. This is the Ricky Harris Media Podcast. See you guys and gals next time. Later. Bye.